The first thing you notice when you arrive in Lima is the mist. It rolls in from the Pacific like a curtain drawn by the sea itself, soft, grey, and endless. Beneath it, the city hums with a restless energy, horns blaring, waves crashing, and the scent of salt mixing with the sweetness of frying plantains. I had barely stepped from the airport when the rhythm of the capital caught me. Lima doesn't wait for you, it sweeps you up. Welcome to Passports to the Past, where every journey is more than a trip. It's a return to the places that shaped who we are. Today, I'm tracing the spine of South America, from the roar of the Pacific Ocean to the whispering peaks of the Andes, a land where empires rose from stone and the mountains still remember their names. This is Peru, where the past isn't gone. It's alive in every street, every market, and every breath of thin mountain air. In Miraflores, the modern heart of the city, I walked along the Malecon, the cliffside promenade that overlooks the ocean. Couples strolled arm in arm while paragliders floated overhead, their bright sails carving color into the cloudy sky. Below me, the Pacific roared against black rocks, the same ocean that once carried Spanish galleons and traders from distant lands. Even here, among skyscrapers and cafes, history lingers like perfume. Faint, familiar, and impossible to forget. I ducked into a cevicheria for lunch, a humble place where plastic chairs wobble and the air smells of lime and the sea. The waiter smiled as he set down a bowl of ceviche clásico, fresh white fish marinated in lime juice, with slivers of red onion, sweet potato, and roasted corn. One bite and my tongue sang, bright, sharp, alive. It was the flavor of the Pacific itself, distilled into a single moment. If you want to understand Peru, start with its food. It's the story of migration, of fusion, Inca and Spanish, African and Asian, all mingling into something utterly Peruvian. Food here isn't just sustenance, it's a conversation across centuries. In the afternoon, I wandered through Lima's colonial core. Balconies of carved wood leaned over narrow streets like grandmothers, eavesdropping on gossip. At the Plaza Mayor, the cathedral loomed in solemn majesty, its bells echoing across the square as pigeons scattered like grey confetti. I stepped inside to find cool silence, broken only by the shuffle of a priest lighting candles. Even here, beneath Christian altars, the bones of older beliefs stir, because Lima, like all of Peru, stands on the shoulders of the past. That night, I packed my bag for the mountains. The sound of the Pacific faded behind me, and I could already feel the Andes calling, distant, ancient, and patient as time itself. Dawn over Lima's coast is gentle, but arriving in Cusco is like waking in another world. The air thins, sharp and clean, and every breath feels like a small prayer. At 11,000 feet above sea level, even standing still is a kind of reverence. Cusco, the former capital of the Inca Empire, it's a city that visits you. It seeps into your bones, quietly reminding you that you are walking atop the center of an empire once so vast that its roads reached from Ecuador to Chile. I started my morning in San Blas, the artist's quarter. The streets are narrow and cobbled, the kind that demand sturdy shoes and humility. Blue doors open into tiny workshops where weavers and painters work by sunlight spilling through small windows. The scent of coca tea drifted from every doorway, that earthy medicinal aroma that seems to steady the heart at altitude. At the Coricancha, once the Temple of the Sun, I ran my hand across the ancient Inca stone, smooth, seamless, perfect. Above it rises the Santo Domingo convent, built by Spanish conquerors atop the old walls, as if trying to crown the sun with a shadow. But the Inca masonry endures. Even after earthquakes and centuries of wear, its stones hold firm, locked in patient defiance. I couldn't help but think that perhaps they built more than temples. They built memory itself. By midday, the Plaza de Armas pulsed with life. Street vendors called out their wares: alpaca scarves, silver bracelets, bright woven bags dyed with cactus fruit. Children chased pigeons between the cathedrals, their laughter rising with the ringing of church bells. I sat on a bench and drank coca tea from a paper cup, feeling my heart slow to match the rhythm of the square. In Cusco, time doesn't move forward. It moves around you, circling like the Andean condor on invisible air. That evening, the temperature dropped sharply. The sky turned violet, then indigo, then black, pierced by a scatter of stars so clear they looked close enough to touch. Somewhere a pan flute began to play, the notes rising and falling like breath itself. It's a sound that belongs to the mountain. And in that moment, I understood. The Andes don't just surround you, they absorb you. The next day, I began the journey into the Sacred Valley, the artery that connects Cusco to Machu Picchu. It's a region that still beats with the same pulse that once fed an empire. My driver, Julio, pointed out fields tiered into perfect terraces that cascade down the hillsides. Each one was carved by hand, stone by stone. Centuries ago, the Incas turned mountains into gardens, creating microclimates for maize, potatoes, and quinoa, long before modern agriculture dreamed of it. Their ingenuity wasn't just science, it was reverence. We stopped in Pisac, a village where market stalls bloom like wildflowers. The scent of roasted corn mingled with that of rain and wood smoke. High above, the ruins of the Inca fortress clung to the ridgeline, terraces zigzagging down the slope like the ribs of a sleeping giant. I climbed partway up, pausing often to catch my breath and my thoughts. Looking down at the valley, at the silver thread of the Urubamba River winding through patchwork fields, I could almost feel the hum of ancient life beneath my feet. From Pisac, the road wound through hills dotted with eucalyptus trees to Ollantaytambo, a town that feels halfway between the past and present. Its cobbled streets and irrigation channels are original, the same ones that carried water when Inca generals defended these walls against Spanish invasion. I climbed the great terraces of the fortress, each step a meditation in stone. At the top, wind whipped through my hair and the mountains opened before me. Vast, endless, eternal. It's humbling to realize that long before cranes or machines, human hands alone shaped these places with patience and purpose. Lunch was trucha frita, fresh river trout, crispy and tender, eaten beside the Urubamba under a woven reed awning. A group of local children laughed as they played soccer nearby, their shouts echoing against the stone walls. Julio smiled at me. "This valley," he said, "feeds not just the body, but the soul." He wasn't wrong. By late afternoon, we reached the train station. As the locomotive chugged along the narrow tracks toward Aguas Calientes, I watched the valley fold into steep canyons. The Urubamba raced beside us, its current white and fierce. Outside, waterfalls plunged through moss-covered cliffs, and somewhere in the distance, thunder grumbled. The air grew heavy with jungle moisture. The mountains, once dry and golden, turned lush and green, guardians of something sacred. When I stepped off the train, night had already fallen. The village glowed softly under lanterns, the sound of rushing water constant and soothing. Tomorrow would bring Machu Picchu, but tonight I listened to the river and thought about how all journeys, in the end, are rivers too. Flowing, winding, unstoppable. I rose before dawn. The bus to Machu Picchu wound upward in silence, switchback after switchback through a forest thick with mist. And then, suddenly, there it was, the lost city revealing itself like a dream half remembered. At first I didn't move, I simply stood and let the sight fill me. Terraces stepped down the mountainside, precise and graceful. Stone temples stood against cliffs that disappeared into clouds. Llamas grazed on emerald grass, oblivious to the awe around them. The air smelled of wet earth and ancient patience. They say the Inca built Machu Picchu without wheels, without iron, without beasts of burden, only with vision and will. Standing there, you believe it. The stones fit so perfectly that centuries of storms haven't loosened them. Every line, every angle, every terrace follows the contours of the mountain as if carved by the hand of nature itself. To the Incas, architecture wasn't separate from spirit. It was a dialogue with the divine. At the Temple of the Sun, I watched sunlight pierce a narrow window, striking the altar just as it has since the 15th century. It was geometry and faith, science and poetry, in a single beam of light. The Incas aligned their world with the stars, not to conquer heaven, but to live in harmony with it. That thought lingered as I wandered through the ruins, the sound of wind filling empty corridors that never truly feel empty. From a high terrace, I looked down at the Urubamba far below, snaking through the valley like a living silver thread. Clouds drifted past me, and for a moment I couldn't tell whether I was standing on earth or suspended in time. Perhaps that's what Machu Picchu truly is, not a place, but a state of grace. That evening, back in Cusco, I sat by a small fire in a courtyard cafe. The mountains were black silhouettes against the stars, and music floated softly through the cold air. A guitar, a flute, a human voice carried by wind. I thought about all I'd seen, The ocean and its mists, the highland markets, the stone terraces carved by ancestors whose names the mountains still speak. Traveling through Peru isn't just sightseeing. It's an act of remembrance, of what human hands can build when guided by spirit instead of haste. The Incas are gone, yet their wisdom remains written in the landscape. Live close to the earth, listen to the stars, and build things meant to last. The world isn't just meant to be seen, it's meant to be remembered. Each place we visit is another thread in the great tapestry of who we are. This is Passports to the Past. Travel smarter, see deeper and remember, we know where the bathrooms are.